welcome everybody to another edition of Beat Your Addiction with John Giordano. I'm your co-host, Scott Jones. We want to thank you for joining us here today as we try to bring you as much information we can about addiction, recovery, mental health, and just living a better life. And it's all about beating your addiction. If you like the content and if you want to know more or you want to learn more, you could certainly do two things. First, you want to go to John's website, johnjgiordano.com.
That's the letter J.
The letter J, johnjgiordano.com, and check out all the information on there. There's a plethora of information, and there's also a way to contact John right there. It's really easy to do. Also, if you like this, you can do another thing is you can like us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, share this with other people, leave comments, and make sure you hit the bell so you get notifications whenever we have new shows. With that, let's get started.
And follow us.
And follow us. Yeah, absolutely. Follow us because we go crazy places.
That's right.
All right. So with that, we have somebody from up in Virginia. I don't think it's snowing there anymore, but it's but it's up there and they're out of gas. And so he was lucky enough to have to sit still for us so we can get him on a podcast. We're talking Archie Messersmith Bunting. I almost did that right, Archie. I'm sorry.
It was so close. It was so close.
No cigar.
Archie Messersmith Bunting. You know, Archie is with us, and he is a speaker and a consultant, and probably many other things we're going to find out about. He is the founder, and he runs ArchieCares, which he's going to tell us all about. And again, up in Charlottesville, Virginia. So. John, this is somebody really interesting we're going to be talking to here, right?
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun because we're on the same path, helping. I'm in recovery. I believe you know that already. Mm-hmm. Now I can't believe it. I'm going on 37 years in recovery without a drink or a drug. It's kind of crazy. I don't believe it either, man. Yeah.
He says, wow, like you rode dinosaurs to your first AA meeting.
Right.
No, I mean, I think the longer we're, in program though, or around people in recovery, like it sounds like such a long time, but it's also just one day. And
yeah, well, that's what we got. Whoever got up the earliest this morning, that's what you have,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell us about what you're doing and, how's it going and what's happening?
Sure. Today, like what happening today?
Well, wherever you are, whatever your Archie cares about.
Oh, gotcha.
How it's going with you,
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if we were going to start with the shit show or the today. So,
you can do whatever you want. Don't do a dance, stand on your head. We don't care.
Listen, don't tell me to dance now because I might be dancing. I am very grateful and blessed today. When I used to be a performer, and that's what I did for a living. And when it's really hard to sing and dance when you're high all the time. I mean, or to do it well, so that career ended for me. And I never thought that I would find anything that I loved as much as performing. I said that a lot. Well, I have found something I love more.
What kind of performing, not the intimate, but what kind of performing were you doing?
No, interrupt. This is your show. Interrupt all the time.
No. What you're performing, but what do you mean performing? What does that mean?
Yeah, musical theater. So I was in New York City singing and dancing. I grew up being the choir boy. So I was Broadway, like performing, like doing the thing.
Oh, that's cool.
It was. I mean, I had a great time until I didn't, as you know. Life was good until it wasn't. And man, I love what I'm doing today. I didn't think I was going to be doing this virtually when I started this business in 2020, because I thought, let's start a business in 2020. I had no idea what was coming. And so I spend a lot of time now sitting here talking to the screen light. But I love helping people. I love helping people understand their feelings, what's going on in their brain, like what are these anxious feelings I'm feeling. I love it. I love being a helper and giving back. And I learned so much of that in the program.
Well, that's really cool because that's the same thing with my journey and Scott's journey. We love helping people and doing what we're doing. And I do a lot of things with science. Like I'm in 75 medical and scientific peer-reviewed journals. I work with 25 universities and, with scientists and research. I'm tired of watching kids die. Yeah. And my thing was, I want to find something that's better than what we're doing, because what we're doing doesn't really work too well. And we're always looking at the psychological part. We're not looking at the rest of the body. You talk about anxiety and depression, but it's not only coming from, things things that happened in your life early on, or, you know, all that kind of stuff, traumas and sexual abuse and, you know, all this stuff that, you know, people go through. It's more also of the body. You know, we're not looking at the microbiome. We're not looking at, which is your gut. We're not looking at a lot of things that are co-contributing factors to depression and anxiety. You know, so I don't know. It's just like trying to teach people about this. It's like, you know, everybody's like kind of like resistant in the medical field until they hear about what I'm saying. They go, you know, we never thought of that before. I say, well, you know, if somebody has a low thyroid that suffers from depression and anxiety, what do you think they're going to do if they're prone for addiction? They're going to medicate. You know, and depression and mental health issues go along with addiction. Now, either you have mental health issues before you had, you know, became addicted, or you had it when you became addicted. Doesn't really matter to me, because I think you got it, and that's it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people medicate that stuff. So how was your journey? So what were you doing, and what was going on? And
so that all of what you said was just fascinating. I was loving every bit of that, because you're 100% right. I'm 100% agreeing with you that we have done things, if you're listening in quotation marks, done things the same way forever. And I'm like, why? Can we try something different? Can we try? Now listen, I'm not trying to talk about, I don't need to rewrite the big book, but I'm like, can we try something different? Because to your point, like when I came into the rooms, I remember many people saying, we're going to put everything on the shelf with the drugs. Like, you can sleep with whoever you want to. You can eat candy all day long. Like, we're going to put everything else on the shelf with the drugs. Okay, well, that wasn't working for me, because I had an undiagnosed mental illness that I wasn't talking about because I was scared. I was scared that if I told you that I hear voices in my head, you were going to put me away forever. So for me, putting everything on the shelf with the drugs wasn't getting me sober. Like I was maybe like, oh, like I'm not gonna do this drug for a minute, but like I wasn't getting any better. And so we had to look at the whole picture of Archie, like what's all going on here, before I actually was able to find some relief, which to me, that's what sobriety was about, was let me find some relief in some the pain and the insanity that's going on in my head. So I wanted to say I agree with all that. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people I met in both rehab and recovery, I'm adopted. I was adopted when I was 2, and now that my husband and I, we have a son who's adopted, and now I see how much happens in those first 2 years, and so like literally now it's like, no wonder I don't know what this podcast is rated, so I don't know what words I could say, but like no wonder I was screwed up.
You could say whatever the
Anything you want.
Okay, I mean, no wonder I was fucked up. I mean, come on, like for 2 years I was bounced around, so there was no one to be connected to, because I was in an emergency foster placement and then a foster home. Like I was just bounced. So like, no shit. Like, of course I had some stuff to work through from all that, but
well, you get abandonment issues with that. That's what happens.
Like out the wazoo.
And then it's hard to get close to people emotionally because you're afraid they're going to leave you.
They're going to go away. Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, and listen, like I'm a little seasoned. So back when I was 2 years old, we didn't have Oprah. We didn't have people on the TV. Like it is like, as trivial as that sounds, like back in the day, like soap operas came on during the day and Walter Cronkite came on at night. Like that was it. There was no like self-help TV. So, and I grew up in the States.
How old are you?
I'm 45. I'm 45.
Oh, well, you look much younger than that.
Well, it's because I can't tan, so I don't got any wrinkles. like, I got wrinkles.
Yeah, you're my kind of guy. I'm 74, so I understand.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So, I also grew up gay. You probably mentioned the husband. I grew up gay in the Deep South. It was definitely not okay to be gay in the 1980s and 90s in like backwoods Alabama. So, I experienced, and I choose to use the word trauma. I grew up in the church. And so I go to church every other week and they tell me I'm going to go to hell. Like to me, that is trauma. So, when I finally when I finally find this thing called drugs and alcohol, and it makes all the pain go away, of course, I'm going to keep doing it. Like, of course, and so, drugs and alcohol, like many people, they became my problem, or they became a problem, but they weren't the problem. The problem was all the shit inside that I had to work through. Unfortunately, that cost me my first career, but here I am today, and all things work for a reason.
Everything happens in God's time, not our time. Number one, that's what I really believe. And people don't like people that are different, and that's the sad part, because that's what makes our world. If everybody was the same, it'd be pretty damn boring. And what you talk about, the whole person, yes, we know spirituality is the foundation of recovery. We know that. I'm not talking about religion. I'm a chaplain for the police department also.
Okay.
But I believe in spirituality. I'm not a religion guy. And, be kind instead of right. Don't hurt yourself or another human being. Reach out and help somebody less fortunate than you. Don't do your best not to lie, cheat, or steal. That kind of thing. Real simple. And do the best you can with the body that God gave you. For me, this was a gift that I got at birth. And it's my gift back to God, or whatever anybody wants to call God.
Sure.
Okay. It's the gift to give back. So what did I do with this gift? Did I just stuff it in the closet, got high and, tripped around? What am I doing? So you're giving back. And that's what I'm doing, giving back. And that's what Scott's doing. Look, we need more light in the world, because the world seems real dark now, as far as I'm concerned. And the bottom line about treating the whole person, most people don't know what I talk about. I talk about the gut because, like for instance, serotonin and dopamine are manufactured in your gut, or your microbiota, whatever you want to call it. And it goes up the vagus nerve into the brain. I say this in every podcast to do this, to get this information out. And it deposits the dopamine and serotonin in the brain are feel-good drugs. Okay. And mental health issues is not only about psychological problems, it's also about the food that we eat, allergies that we have, heavy metals, toxicity that we have. You can have low testosterone, closed head injuries. There's a lot of things that can cause mental illness that people have no clue about. We keep on throwing medication at people, which medication was only a short-term intervention, now it became a long-term thing. And, and you can go on, and most people, they get depressed, just like I was. I don't want to talk about it. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm great. Yeah, bullshit. You're not great. Your life's falling apart and shit's happening everywhere. But I'm great, And I understand what you're saying about, you didn't lose a career. You just decided to change.
Yeah. I say sometimes when I'm speaking that, because in reality, a lot of people move to New York City and they never have any working success. They spend their time in New York City waiting tables. And I was one of the fortunate ones who actually got to do it. Like, I did the thing. I got to travel the world. I went to Antarctica performing. Who says that? So, I'm very blessed. I know, right?
Who watches you in Antarctica?
Eskimos.
3 horny penguins and a polar bear?
Say it again.
Well, who watches you? What do you got? 3 penguins and a polar bear watching you?
There we go. You froze for a second. I'm back. So the cruise ship was in Antarctica, and we went in and whatever. But yeah, I got to see the
cruise
penguins.
Ship was you on? Because you look familiar to me.
Oh, wow, that'd be weird. So I was on a Renaissance cruise ship, and then a ship called the Marco Polo.
Okay, no, I was on a Crystal, and I was on
the
Regent.
Okay, yeah, that'd have been weird, but also cool. Yeah, so I'm very blessed to have done that. But then, drugs became a bigger part of my life, and it wasn't, they said, the path, like fun and problems. I fast forwarded to problems very quickly. Like, let me just skip the fun and problems. Let's just get to problems. So.
Well, it's like, what did you sang and you danced, right? On the shows, you were in the shows that you sang and you danced and things like that? Can you hear me? I think we got frozen here.
We got froze for a second. Oh, you're back.
Are you back?
There we go. Okay, everything was frozen for a second. Sorry.
Yeah. So you sang and you danced, right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
See, that was my love also. I did 8 plays in the Theater Performing Arts. I produced, directed it, and wrote them. And we did kabuki theater is what I did. And of course, being a martial artist, I wove karate demonstrations inside of a storyline. And, a kid wanting to be a Shaolin monk. And we did a whole number with different demonstrations. And it was really cool. I really loved doing that. And that was my, I enjoyed doing plays and stuff like that. To me, that was like one of my other passions, actually.
Yeah.
And, but I was using, and everything was getting worse and worse and worse. And, I didn't see it. Everybody else saw it. And me, I was okay. Like we say, how you doing? I'm okay. So it sounds like we're on the same path, and which is cool. And most addicts are very talented as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, listen, this is not an original thought, but the amount of talent and grit and grind and perseverance and creativity sitting in church basements across America is unreal. Because the things that we would do and the stories that we would concoct and like whatever to be able to keep using to, find whatever. If we could just take a millimeter of that and like transfer it to the world right now, that's what we need. We need that. Absolutely.
So did you wind up in treatment? What was your story?
Yep. So it took me a couple of cycles. So I went to a rehab early in my recovery. It didn't exactly take. I bounced, a little bit more from out. So I was a crystal meth addict. I went hardcore in, and then eventually was an IV drug user. So like I was out there doing the stuff. I overdosed a number of times. I was living in New York City at the time. But I overdosed one too many times and woke up in ICU having been intubated. I would love to say that I walked out of that hospital and never used again. That's not the truth. I still kept thinking, I can manage this. And then it got to the point that I was just hurting so bad that I tried to take my life because I just, the pain was just too much. And I felt like I'd tried everything else. Fortunately, I was not successful and ended up stumbling into this meeting in New York and meeting this guy who was absolutely nothing like me, and him saying, "You come here," and invited me to this meeting called PAX. It's a meeting on the East Side. It's a men's meeting, and I was terrified of going to a men's meeting. But those guys rallied around me, and that's I put my first year together there at PAX. Ended up having to go to rehab again, but I chose to go to rehab again later in life when I thought that I could drink again. And it actually was in that rehab that I actually for the first time talked about the suicide attempt, talked about the fact that I hear voices in my head, got honest about all the stuff. And then I finally started getting better.
Well, that's a wonderful story, and that's great. See, I believe that whatever God is to you, that was watching over you and directed you there and guided you there. And, I really believe those things happen, It's like, for instance, me, I didn't go because I thought I had a problem. Everybody else said I had a problem. And they did an intervention on me, and I wound up going to treatment. And I had a spiritual awakening in treatment, which was like kind of weird. Here I am today doing this, and working with somebody like yourself, which, it's like, hey, guys out there, look, three of us came out of hell and are walking around. So, you could do it, but you have to do the work. Like I wear these shirts, it says knowledge is power, but without action is worthless.
Completely, yep.
So how did you find treatment?
So the first time it was sort of invited upon me, to your point, it was like, you are a hot mess. Because at that point in my life, I definitely was. I was just a hot mess. Wait, when you say, how did I find it? Did you mean like, what was my experience like?
Yeah, what was your experience
Oh,
like?
okay. Yeah. So let's talk about the second time, because the second time is when it really took. So I believe that rehab and treatment is very much about the community. At least it was for me. I mean, I feel like the stuff that they teach us is probably the same everywhere, I guess. But I was fortunate that the other men, because even if you are in a rehab with other the women, we like never saw them. Like they were on, which I don't really care, because I was like, I don't care. But like the straight dudes, they were always like at a different dining or whatnot. But for me, the community that I was able to build, because there were probably 6 or 7 people in my position, meaning that we were later in life, we had families, we had jobs, we had things to go back home to or not. And I think that was really helpful, because I do believe that if I had been like the oldest one, or the only one with a partner or a wife, or like there was just something about being able to relate to the tension that like we were all trying to focus here, but all of us had something back at home to lose if we didn't figure this out. We were all in the same place. And so for me, I found that very, I think that was a gift for me, that I was able to experience that with those men.
I think that's very important in treatment. That's why I tell people, look, you need to get in the middle of the program. You need to go to meetings. I used to hate the meetings. I used to say I wouldn't even get high with these kind of people. I was like whacked out.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so I used to go F God at the meeting. I was a nightmare. And the thing is this, that it's because of the people in those meetings. When I let down my guard, and realized that I have a big problem. It wasn't a little problem or no problem. I had a big problem, and I got connected. And I think that's what this is all about. Us human beings, we need relationship. We need to feel that connectedness without being judged and all this, and people tell me, that young people, that new people that go into meetings, they go, but this guy's doing that and that guy's doing that. They're full of shit, blah, blah, blah. I say, look, what do you think? You're in a meeting with a bunch of sick addicts. Why do you think they're there? If they were doing everything perfect, they wouldn't be there. Be empty,
Yeah.
So I said, look, you can walk into any place and pick out all the negative stuff. And that was my journey in the beginning of going to meetings. I was picking out all the negative stuff. And I wasn't looking at anything positive. But then after a while, I just kept going and going. They told me to keep going to meetings. I didn't even know why I was going to these meetings, because I thought they were bullshit. But I kept going. And, and I used to say to my therapist, hey, I says, listen, this is bullshit. What's happening? I don't feel any better. They said, did you use today? I said, no, you're already better, John. So I didn't catch that concept, and I forgot about, being alone in hotel rooms and looking up at the ceiling and, and looking out the window to see who's coming and, all that kind of shit that we go through, and I love meeting people like yourself, is because, we're talking about real stuff. We're not talking about some bullshit. Oh, I got a new car. Oh, no, come on, man, give me a break. Okay. We're talking about life, and we're talking about not just doing things for ourselves, but reaching out and doing things for other people that are less fortunate than we are. And there are different kinds of addicts. Some addicts, it's like addiction's like an elevator. You can get off at the top floor, middle floor, or you can get off in the sub basement. And, it's just the way it is. And so, you'll learn to gravitate towards different kinds of people that just fit the way you feel. Look, if you don't ride a motorcycle, you're not going into a motorcycle bar, let's say. All right. If you're not gay, you're not going in, if you're not gay, you're not going into a gay club. So, it's just like you got to feel the way you can fit in. And especially if you were adopted, you have that abandonment issues. And if you can feel safe in a crowd, in a group, that's what makes all the difference in the world. So, kudos to you, man. I'm glad that you found recovery, and treatment is, therapists say, don't keep doing the same thing and over again and expect different results. I say to therapists, why are you doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results? I think we need to change the way we're doing treatment here. It's not working for a lot of people. there's only I think about a 5 to 7 recovery rate. People coming out of treatment.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, 28. How long were you using for?
8 years. 8 years.
Okay, so look at this. Here you are using it for 8 years, and now you're going to get fixed in 28 days.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. Well, I remember my first rehab. You know how the first day you have to go around and you like say your name and your drug of choice. And I was the only crystal meth addict. And the woman said, "Good luck." And I was like, "What?" And then I found out, later that the success rate is teeny, because crystal meth isn't a physical addiction, it's a mental addiction. So there's nothing they can give you to make you feel better. Like everybody else around me was on methadone and like falling asleep with their coffee cups. And I'm just like over here stuck in my head. But then, yeah, I mean, they said like the success rate of the people that you come into rehab with, like 2 or 3 of you will stay sober long-term. And I'm like, these are not good numbers. Like, what is going on here? But that's the reality of the deal.
Well, and the thing is that, like you say, methamphetamine, and I have one of my clients, because I used to own a rehab, and one of my clients was doing methamphetamines for 11 years. Okay, and he was doing it every day, and really like a lot. And unfortunately, that he's clean now for I think 14 years. But the problem is that his brain got messed up.
Yeah.
If you send him for coffee, he comes back with bagels. I mean,
Yep.
But we love him. He works with my son, and it is what it is. This is our past. This is what happens. We damage ourselves. And I work with a Dr. Deborah Mash, who used to have the brain bank at the University of Miami School of Medicine. And if you look at, I don't want to scare you, but if you look at a methamphetamine addict that has been doing meth for a long time, their brains look like Swiss cheese.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
No, it's the truth. I mean, I heard I had a therapist one time say, back in the day when there were lots of cords, now there's just one cord. But back in the day when we were trying to like attach our VCRs to our TVs, to our stereos, like all those cords, he was like, it's like you unplugged all the cords and you plugged them back in, but they're all in different places. Right. And I was like, that's exactly what it feels like up there sometimes. And it is what it is. I mean, I can't go back in time. I say a lot when I speak that, our past does not have to define us, but it does help design us. It can. And the life that I'm living today is very much designed by all these choices that I made for this point. And now my higher power is allowing me to use all that to help other people.
See, what I look at life is there are no failures. There are only lessons. And our history is the ones that's giving us our lessons. You can learn from negative stuff and you can learn from positive stuff. It all depends how you choose, what to learn for.
Yep. 100%.
And Scott and I have been through all this. Huh, Scott?
Yeah, well, we've known each other 10 years. So yeah. I'm curious, Archie, tell me about, before we run out of time here, I definitely want to hear about ArchieCares and what you're doing, because it sounds to me like you're trying to spread a message and help people. How are you doing that?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is that when I launched the business, I assumed I would speak more to the addiction recovery piece of my life. But I found, especially in the past year, I am like almost solely in this mental health, mental illness, self-care lane, because there's so much anxiety and confusion and sadness. And for some reason, people think that mental health presentations need to be boring. Like, I don't understand like why they would choose that topic to make boring. But I have seen some like dry as dirt presentations, and that's not how I show up. I show up just like this, talking about mental health and depression. So I share a message of like, here is what mental illness is. Here is what it's not. Let's think about our words. Like, people say, I'm so depressed all the time. And I'm like, bitch, please, you are not depressed. You are sad. Like, use the word sad. But in America, we have taken the word sad and made that bad. Well, there's a difference in sad and depressed. Let's use all the words. So really challenging people to think about their vocabulary. Also challenge people to your point, to not say, hey, how are you doing? To say, how are you feeling? Because if you ask someone, how are you feeling? Usually they're like, how am I feeling? because we're so trained to just say, I'm great, I'm fine, I'm good. And that's some bullshit. So let's use all the feelings of the rainbow. And it's been really cool to see light bulbs go off all over the world at this point, when people really start taking the, like, I call it the how are you feeling challenge. Like, just try it for 2 days, see what it feels like. And they're like, that is totally different. And I'm like, yeah, I know, there's some science to it. So that's my mission now.
Well, that's good that you're doing that, because what most people don't understand, people that are feeling sad or depressed or whatever you want to call it, they stuff all of this.
Yep.
And they keep stuffing it. And if you got genetics that are prone for addiction, you're going to do addiction.
Yep.
You got to do drugs and alcohol to medicate this stuff, and it never works. It works for the first 20 minutes, and then you're off down again, going backwards.
Yep.
But that's great that you're doing that kind of work, and people need to know it's not a shame game if you have mental health issues and you have addiction issues. People say to me, I talk about anonymity, right? I'm out there on television. I'm out doing these podcasts saying, hey, here's who I am. This is what happened to me. I wrote my life story like a fourth step, and it's called The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. And it's my whole life story about my family. My father was a heroin dealer. My uncle was a hitman. I come from a mafia type family. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And I put that in the book to help people, to show them, to motivate them, to show them that, yes, you can still be successful in life, okay, being a better person, not necessarily making a lot of money, but that helps too, but being a better person that you were.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most important thing in the world. And I love Scott and we love what we do, and obviously you do too. And that's what this is about. Getting information out to people. That's what I want to do. Talk about, recovery. First of all, the 28-day model is ridiculous. Okay, should be anywhere from 60 to 90 days, depending on the severity of the illness. I don't know what's going on with me today, but and we have to look at that. I mean, because people go for treatment center, then they come out, they hop, and they go to another one, and they hop, they go to another detox. And the insurance companies keep paying for it. Why not do it right the first time? And then the problem is insurance companies are running the treatment centers. So they're telling people how long you can stay there, what medications you have to be on in order to say that you're sick enough to be in treatment. And it goes on and on and on. And this is getting like ridiculous already, what's happening. And now they got Suboxone, they take over, instead of methadone now it's Suboxone. So they want people on opioids to go into treatment. I mean, it's like insane. In the 1900s, we had what do you call it? Opium. Boy, I'm losing my
Opium
mind.
dens.
Yeah, they had opium dens all over the place. And what they decided to do, they had an epidemic of that. And what they decided to do is give them heroin to get them off the opium. I mean, it's like insane. So they found out, well, that didn't work. And now they're giving another opioid to get off an opiate. I don't know. So that's where we're at.
So I was checking it out. It's ArchieCares.com is where people can go to learn about you. Are you doing these programs for individuals, for organizations, for businesses? What exactly is your alley there?
My lane. Yeah. So I don't really do one-on-one coaching. That's not my jam just yet. But I do
too much energy for the one-on-ones, right?
Yeah. So I do a lot of work with high school, college, and corporate America. So people hire me to come speak. And the good news is that the message is really transferable to whatever audience.
Sure.
So yeah, any of those things. I've even done some church groups. Some of the churches got brave and hired me. So, it's whoever needs the message, I'll share.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're doing colleges and universities, and my hat's off to you, because that's something that in my business that I've been working towards is getting help into those places. When you think about this is the first time these kids are leaving home, they're introduced to alcohol and drugs like never before. They're under tremendous pressure, which could trigger any kind of mental illness or kind of mental defect that's going on. And generally the colleges are ill-equipped to deal with it. And I've seen people be asked to leave campus because they have an eating disorder, and the college didn't want the liability instead of finding help. So I'm glad that you're spreading the message in those directions. Are you getting good reception from these people?
Yeah, I mean, in the month of March, I was booked every day, and sometimes twice a day. And the students really lean in because I'm very approachable. I'm also very real. You know, I'm very transparent about my addiction and my suicide. It's like I'm very transparent, and they're like, "This guy is not kidding." So it's
What do you do? You just call the college up and ask them if you could speak to the people?
Well, I have an agency that supports me in the college market. But I've been in higher ed for a little over 15 years. So most colleges know of me at least.
Oh, okay.
Okay, cool.
Well, that's excellent. I want people to check it out, and certainly your contact information will be on the website, right?
Yeah, it's all there.
So if anybody wants to ask questions or sees this and they just want to reach out to you, you invite that. You invite
Absolutely.
those conversations.
Come on, let's talk. Yeah, come on. Come on.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your energy and your time to be on the show. And I love the fact that you present yourself the way you do, because you're right. I mean, most people who are talking about addiction, or more importantly with mental health, they're talking about depression, but they're actually the living manifestation of what depression looks like, the way they present it. They're so sad and so blah.
Well, no, it's all about like a book. They're reading out of a book instead of out of reality.
It's so dry. And people will respond more when you're energetic about the message. I mean, it's kind of like, if we're talking about mental health, we got to lower our tone. We got to be very
no.
You know what? Yell and scream, have some fun with it.
I mean, listen, if y'all want to talk boring during a sex ed conversation, great. Because people going to pay it. You talk about dicks, people going to pay attention. So it doesn't matter. So you can talk all very low. If you talk about mental health, you better be up here. You better be going to get people to pay attention. So right. I don't know why they chose mental health to be like, today we will be discussing anxiety.
I always say that. Yeah.
No.
And what do you think about that? And by the way, how are you feeling?
No.
All of a sudden, you feel like you're at a narcolepsy convention.
I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? So yeah, that's not the way I roll. Not the way I roll.
Excellent. Well, again, Archie Messersmith Bunting. I did it.
Okay. You did it. I mean, I was like, he did it.
It won't happen again. It won't. From ArchieCares again. That's ArchieCares.com. If you'd like some more information about Archie, to talk about recovery, mental health, or anything that kind of piqued your interest during the show, certainly reach out to him. John, good to see you again.
Absolutely.
And I want to remind everybody that if you like Beat Your Addiction, certainly check out John's website, johnjgiordano.com. And of course, like us, follow us, and share us on our YouTube channels, and hit the button to get the notifications. Anything else, John?
Well, if you want to know about a holistic approach to mental health and addiction, okay, check out the website and see it. You'll see some of the research papers there, and because nobody believes anybody unless you have evidence. So, and here's evidence right here, the three of us. But, what can I say? But no, it's really an honor and a pleasure speaking with you.
Same. I had a great time.
All right. For John Giordano, I'm Scott Jones. We want to thank our guest, Archie from ArchieCares. We'll catch you next time right here on Beat Your Addiction.